Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Four Star Podcast. We have a really interesting guest to talk with today. We have the CEO of a firm called DriveWealth, and they're an institutional firm that works with a technology firm that works with other investment firms, and he's having a big effect on the investing world. I want to introduce everybody to Donato Cuttone, or Don, as he goes by sometimes as well, Chief Executive of DriveWealth Institutional. Welcome to the podcast, Don.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So you got quite a background. I know you just joined DriveWealth as part of the acquisition of your firm, Cuttone and Company, one of the largest New York Stock Exchange firms. That was founded in '84, right, by your father?
Correct, 1984 by my father. I joined the firm in 1987, in September of 1987.
Okay, great. And so when the firm was founded, you started point of sale, work across and on the trading floor, services to firms involved in all that. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Quite some time servicing, hedge funds, money managers, institutions, endowments, performing high quality execution services across different arbitrage strategies, merger strategies, anything corporate action related. So had a lot of experience in all the manual components of an institutional trade from a very young age. Nice.
Very interesting stuff. So I'm really excited about this interview because it actually affects the individual investor quite a bit. But you're not just working with investment advisors, you're also a member of the New York Stock Exchange board, and you're a very prominent player in the financial scene in the entire exchange world, right?
Correct. I've spent a lot of time on the trading floor as a member of the New York Stock Exchange, as a floor official, a senior floor official, most recently a governor. I sit on the board of the New York National Medallion and represent that exchange at the boardroom table on a quarterly basis with the other board members at the New York, and have been part of the community and the ecosystem at the New York Stock Exchange since, again, 1987. So very ingrained in everything I do and everything we do here at DriveWealth.
Nice. And your firm, your general securities principal of your firm, Series 24, 7, 7A, 19, 63, 99, which includes a whole series of different things that your firm can do. It's exciting to have you here. Tell us a little bit about what DriveWealth Institutional does for its customers. And customers are other banks and brokers, right?
Correct. So we have the sister company, DriveWealth, is the correspondent clearing firm, the firm that powers this embedded finance community. So we are a self-clearing broker-dealer with a multi-clearing strategy so that we have access to some very interesting institutional grade counterparties and some institutional grade balance sheet, which is very important, these days, especially coming out of the first quarter of the year with all the crazy stuff that occurred in the meme stocks. But DriveWealth Institutional is an institutional broker-dealer. We're the executing arm for DriveWealth, the retail firm. DriveWealth, the retail firm, powers different embedded finance players around the world. We power some traditional, some incumbents, some banks, some brokers, and also payment providers and other digital players around the world.
Interesting. So as we kind of talk to investors all over the country and frankly all over the world, Four Star Podcast has been 6 continents. We're still waiting for Antarctica to come in. Nonetheless, they're interested in what they know. And, if you work with, big wirehouse firms, or you work with other trading firms, or, big firms like Schwab or TD, the individual investor may not even know you guys exist. Is that right?
That's correct. We think if we do our job right, they'll never know who we are. But the good news for them is that we, have a long history and it's woven into our DNA to service the institutions, like I mentioned earlier. So we service global banks. We act in a dealer capacity in certain aspects. So we're able to bring all of the institutional grade connectivity, services, tools, and extend them all the way out to the retail investor, which is an exciting thing, we think, in the democratization of investing.
Nice. I like that word, democratization of investing. And, one of the groups one of the categories of our industry that's been seen as a big responsible for that are all the robo firms, right? So, I know we can't talk about specific firms, but you've worked with some of these firms, and what kinds of things are you guys doing that are helping those robo firms, be more efficient and help the democratization of investing for the small investor?
I think the thing that we bring is we expose the entire stack, the entire brokerage stack from top to bottom via API, which allows our partners to be extremely creative in the way they design experiences for their customers, the ultimate retail investor. So we've removed the friction from the process. We have exposed all components of the stack. We give them a kind of clean sheet of paper to design an experience. And the wonderful thing that has come out of that is that we can give people in the form of a single stock trade or a basket of trades or in a robo model, the ability to invest as little as $1 in a single security or in multiple securities. So again, in the spirit of, providing access, those of our partners that have this creative bend can create very unique experiences.
It sounds great. We talked earlier as we were discussing our discussion today. Back in the 90s, many investors started trading shares on foreign exchanges, which they really couldn't do before. And then they created things called ADRs, American Depository Receipts. So you could buy a big share somewhere in a foreign land through an American bank for $30 a share, but the share was really more efficient. And that's over in Switzerland or London or wherever it is. And that might be a $6,000 share. But what you're saying is the individual investor could buy a dollar's worth of that big share somehow.
Correct.
Is that right?
That is correct. And the other interesting thing that I didn't have a chance to touch on, so our intention is, we have this kind of theme here that we want to frack everything. So we have a domestic approach. We're adding an international strategy. We're adding different asset classes. There are very unique product sets out there right now in the collectible market, right? People are securitizing collectible automobiles, wine collections. So in the future, as this ecosystem matures and evolves, we anticipate, providing this connectivity and becoming the exchange of things. So not only across currencies and securities but in the future, assets and alternatives.
Right.
Potentially things like pre-IPO shares, again, collectible automobiles, manuscripts, all the things that you see coming out of some of these very interesting fintech startups that are exposing, again, the community to some very interesting product.
So you think there's ways using systems and API to get that to it in smaller pieces, for example, and give them access to things they've never had before?
Correct. And that's exactly what institutional does. It provides that fabric, that digital fabric, and connects the markets in a way that, again, make them very accessible in a very seamless experience. So our clients, our retail investor around the world who wants to put $10 into the US market or, a classic car in the future will have the ability seamlessly to move that in his wallet in and out across currency, fiat, securities, or collectible.
Fascinating. So the average investor, let's say I have $250 and I want to put a certain amount of money in, I can split it between like 5 investments, and I can do that every month and have like set up automatically at a certain time, and you get the price at that time, right?
Correct. And again, our fracking technology is real time. DriveWealth has a patent pending on it. They pioneered real-time fractional trading in 2015. And we continue to develop that ecosystem. So everything that we do on the fractional side of things is, again, an institutional grade execution with all the friction removed out of the process.
Fascinating. So that's really exciting because there's so many things that, realistically, the average investor couldn't do for a long time. It was always there, but you had to be a big accredited investor, or you had some other, invest in much larger minimums and that kind of thing. So that's really, as you say, democratization is really cool. So, Don, what do you see coming? What's the next step of technology? You mentioned, illiquid things like car collections and things like that. What's on the docket? I guess maybe that's like a peering inside the window, like what you guys are working on right now. Don't give us all the secrets, but just tell us where's the general direction.
The general direction is, as I mentioned earlier, right? Some of the traditional asset classes are being integrated right now. We just completed a wonderful investment round, and we just completed a Series D round. We were able to secure a wonderful allocation of capital from a great group of investors. So we are building exchange grade / industrial grade infrastructure because we are a transactional business, right? And then we are layering in, not only traditional asset classes, but all these alternatives and delivering them in a way that our clients can create any type of experience they want around those product sets. So nice. We're excited. We plan on offering everything. And again, we have a fun term inside. We say we're going to frack everything. So it's frack everything for DriveWealth, correct.
And Don, you mentioned earlier about wallets, and a lot of folks didn't even know what an investing wallet was until the crypto world started, because they had to put their investments in this thing called a wallet. And does that allow you then with a wallet to carve up even all the other, how many cryptos are there? There's a couple hundred now, right?
Correct. We will even launch it. We'll have a crypto offering that will go live in a beta format at the fourth quarter of this year. We'll offer a smaller, universe of current coins between 2 and 5 to start, right? To make sure that we're introducing this in a responsible way. We have great demand from our partners globally, and we want to be thoughtful in the way we deliver the product, we manage the infrastructure, and we contend with the risks that will be associated with entering that asset class. And we think we're more than capable and qualified to handle this. We have a wonderful team here.
Wonderful. One of the markets we talked about earlier too, that we've interested in because of the hedging capabilities, or if you care to be a speculator, is the US options market, where you're carving out different pieces of an equity move or something like that. And we've always been very frustrated that we can't really find a way to make options something that we can deliver to a lot of investors all at once. It's like on a case by case, investor by investor basis. And we'd like to be able to bring option management, whether it be covered call writing or, put buying or whatever it might be, across a broader array. So do you think that that's coming too?
I do think that's coming. Again, we're unique in the way we're structured because we have 2 broker dealers. So our institutional BD can serve all the different option strategies, and can easily manage those out to the institutional community. On the retail side of the house, we're going to build an options offering that is quite a bit simpler and easier, I think, for the retail community to digest, a little bit more responsible to expose them to options in the way that we anticipate our partners exposing them to them. So I think that's coming. I think and I know options are quite a bit more complicated than the traditional asset classes. So we're taking a great approach. We're excited about our option team is engaged and in place and building away every day. So we're excited to see how that develops in the future.
Very exciting stuff. We've talked about this too, that we're seeing a lot of people, mostly younger generations, getting caught up in quick wins, trendy investment. Everybody's a Bitcoin millionaire now, or they think they are, or they're trying to be. So how do you approach educating them when they get involved in these kinds of adventures so they don't make really, really bad mistakes?
So I have a 23-year-old, a 26-year-old, and a 23-year-old. So I'm constantly having the conversation with my 2 children about exactly that. I think through responsible education, and then I think education number 1, right? And again, we like to consider ourselves as an application that powers investing, not necessarily trading or speculation. And again, we do have partners that can run those type of businesses on our stack. But I think time value of money, little bit every day, week, month, year, whatever you can afford to dribble into the market. And I think if we can introduce to this younger community to that kind of over time based mentality of investing, the good news is they can do it now a couple of dollars at a time and see the net effect of that in a very small and a very risk mitigated way. So I think a combination of education and then actually putting the tool in their hand will help us bridge that gap and get them to a place where they can make some more responsible decisions.
Yeah, yeah, it's a pretty easy to blow yourself up if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, and just watching as you develop all this, and this is really an interesting discussion because frankly, most individual investors would never talk to someone like yourself, Don. So we're getting kind of a window. We're getting a window inside what's really going on in Wall Street and how it's running. But it's definitely an entrepreneurial adventure for you guys. So how did you? So you've been an entrepreneur and your father before you. How did you develop this business, and how did you get to where you guys are right now?
So in 2010, Bob Cortland and I had the pleasure of meeting each other, and we started another entity called Algo Partners, which was an internalizer of U.S. equity flow. And that business did very well, lasted for quite some time, but then Bob was had a calling to go and start DriveWealth. So he started DriveWealth. I took back the knowledge I had learned at Algo Partners away from my firm. And brought that knowledge back. And I really believed in Bob's vision from the very beginning. He's been very consistent with it. He's had an incredible view of the markets, and the markets have done all that he's anticipated. So I was an early adopter of the strategy. I knew that the infrastructure that my firm had would not be sufficient to support what Bob was envisioning. So I began to build a technology infrastructure in parallel with DriveWealth as they developed the retail-facing broker-dealer. And we were fortunate enough to have the businesses mature in a way that we were able to bring them together in 2020. So for me, I'm a mechanical / operational expert. It's been my bailiwick my whole career.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of handwriting every single process of a trade, throughout my life. So we bring a mechanical expertise and a sophisticated piece of technology to a firm that is does a magnificent job of aggregating partners and retail investors all over the world, and it's a fantastic combination.
Sounds like it. And as you build all this, I'm sure there's a lot of pressures and people who want to get a piece of the action or whatever. What kinds of core values that you bring to this that keep you on track? Essentially, is there a core value base of the whole thing?
I'm a people first person. I really like to start with the right people on the bus, and I think if we get the right people on the bus, we can accomplish anything. So, high quality individuals, strong core expertise in their respective field, great work ethic, good family people. We've been building the team and the culture. Here at DriveWealth now, I had the pleasure of running that myself at my firm, and always took great pride in the teams we were able to assemble. So I think, everyone here is very excited about the future of finance. I think Wall Street is quite a bit stale. There are a lot of talent on Wall Street that has not had an opportunity to blossom or build or spread its wings in quite some time for a host of different reasons. So we have a wonderful platform. We have a great vision. We have a great leader in Bob Courtwright. We have a lot of wonderful things here that benefit not only the investor, but all the way down to our team and our employees. So we just have a really fantastic a group of individuals who are all pulling on the same side of the rope, which I think is hard to find sometimes on Wall Street.
Yes, the old adage of need a friend, get a dog. It's good to have good people to work with, isn't it?
But it's my second mode. Building the infrastructure has been a dream / favorite thing of mine, as strange as that sounds, but building the team is more fun and much more rewarding. So that's been another wonderful byproduct of this journey with Bob.
Absolutely. I have to ask this question we ask of a lot of our guests is are there certain books or movies that motivated you, like Wall Street in the 80s, or what got you going in this whole business, Don?
So Wall Street was a great movie. I read a book. I think there's two books that I read that for whatever reason influenced me. I don't know if they influenced my career, but they certainly opened up my eyes to the market. One book was a book that the old brokers on the floor and my dad told me to read, and I have dozens of copies of it. I give it to all our interns. It's called The Reminiscence of a Stock Operator. I don't know if you've ever heard that book.
That's one that I recommend as well. Absolutely.
Okay. I think it's incredible. And if I give that book to a young person, I asked them to draw the parallels between yesterday's markets and today's markets. And if they're able to connect those two dots, I know I've got a winner on my hands. So that's always a good one. And then the other book I really enjoy, because we have a history in arbitrage trading and all things multi-legged, was a book called Fortune's Formula. Did you ever read that book?
No, tell us about it.
Phenomenal book.
Excellent.
Sorry, I have someone waving in my door. And Fortune's Formula is a book about the Bell Labs folks who figured out how to start to run some of the first systemized convertible arbitrates. It is a wonderful book and a great read, and I'd recommend those to anyone interested in the markets.
That sounds like an initial model for what you're doing now and how you built everything that you created. Yeah,
we it's interesting. We built our technology years ago out of necessity. When post September 11th, when Reg NMS came, we were a floor broker that had the luxury of 98% of the flow coming to the New York Stock Exchange in its listed securities, and overnight that market share was slipping and deteriorating. So we went from an extremely busy business to one that all of a sudden couldn't figure out how to get itself in the middle of an order. And that's when we started to build our connectivity initially. So in the beginning, it was built as a survival mechanism, but it quickly turned into an opportunity for us. And we were very fortunate to capitalize on it with DriveWealth.
Once you figure it out, yeah, you can do great things. That's great.
Absolutely.
Well, good. Well, the last question, are there any exciting projects, or are there double prong question? Are there any exciting projects coming, or is there any specific message you'd like to leave the investing public listening to the 4-Star podcast?
I think I think our exciting product that's up and coming is crypto. I think our crypto offering will be world class, and again, do everything that we spoke about that DriveWealth is able to perform and deliver. So we're very excited about that. More importantly, I think the future of embedded finance is very exciting to look at. We're in the very early stages, not even near the middle, the very early stages of this financial revolution. And I think it's going to be super exciting to see how globally this all comes together.
So the investing public and our listeners on the 4-Star podcast, if they're really impressed with one of the systems at one of these robo firms or another brokerage firm, they just might be dealing with Don Cuttone.
Correct. But their order will be at some point be delivered to a New York Stock Exchange member firm and executed in the highest fashion. So we're very proud of that.
Absolutely. Well, great. Well, this has been a great kind of a look under the hood of what's going on Wall Street and how individual investors are served. And great to get to know you, Don. And thank you, Don Cuttone, of DriveWealth, for being here with the 4-Star folks and our guests and our listeners on the 4-Star podcast.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and always excited to talk about what we're doing.
Thanks so much. And maybe we'll check in with you a little later for an update on what's going on in the new developments and where we see things maybe 6 months, a year down the line. We'll see where we go.
That would be fantastic. We look forward to delivering a great message.
All right. Thanks, Don.